Hello, my name is Melissa Redondo, and I will be presenting on this slide. I will be discussing innovative and controversial topics. I just want to make an important note that Alzheimer's disease can only be made with a definite diagnosis after death, and this is done by linking the clinical measures with an examination of brain tissue and an autopsy. So the first issue that I have here is the AADVAC1 vaccine. This is designed to elicit an immune response against pathologically modified forms of tau protein. Tau protein is a microtubule protein that stabilizes neuronal microtubules. In a person with Alzheimer's disease, these proteins are misfolded and abnormally shaped. When these proteins are unstable, this does not allow for transportation of nutrients or other substances from one cell to another. In May of 2013, Axon Neuroscience began a phase 1 trial in Austria to evaluate this vaccine in 30 patients who had mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. This was done by administering 3 single monthly injections via the sub-Q route, in which these participants were assessed for safety, tolerability, immunogenicity, and an assessment of cognition was also done. The results of these studies were reported as safe and well tolerated. The majority of the participants repeat injections induced increasing antibody titers. This was followed by the phase 2 trial of March of 2016, this time with 185 patients who had mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease and MRIs that were consistent with Alzheimer's. Results for this trial reported that more than 80% of the immunized participants developed high affinity tau antibodies, and this was found in the autopsy brain tissues of the participants. I have biomarkers listed as well. Can biomarkers validate an early onset or risk for Alzheimer's dementia? Currently in clinical trials, promising biomarkers have been the beta amyloid and tau protein levels in the cerebrospinal fluid, along with brain imaging. And this is being studied to detect an earlier detection or diagnosis for Alzheimer's. But currently, there are no definite biomarkers that have been validated for the detection of Alzheimer's early on or a definite diagnosis. There's genetic risk profiling. The APOE4 gene is the strongest risk gene in some clinical trials. Ethical issues for caregivers, autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, and intimacy with the spouse. Is it okay to be intimate with your spouse who has Alzheimer's disease? It can be frustrating and confusing for some. Financial, there are about 60 million Americans who provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementias. These caregivers provided an estimate of 18.6 billion hours valued at nearly $244 billion. Innovative interventions aim to help primary care providers support individuals with dementia and their family caregivers. For example, UCLA has a program, Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Program. And this program helps patients and their family members who have complex medical, behavioral, and social needs of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. You have nurse practitioners and PAs who work alongside with the patient's primary care doctor or specialist to create and implement a personalized care plan. Technological interventions targeted at the caregiver or the person living with dementia to relieve stress for their caregivers, like tablets that can be used for telemed, exit sensors, CO2 detectors, temp detectors, medication reminders. Policy changes. Medicare and Building Our Last Dementia Infrastructure for Alzheimer's Act, policy changes that includes reimbursement for recognition of practitioners who go on to obtain specialized skills in Alzheimer's disease and dementia management, because sometimes primary care is their first and their last resource for managing the challenging and chronic and progressive illness of this condition.